SSH-server. Okay, please just install this OpenSSH server in your system, and then you will be able to access your VM via PuTTY or WinRecipe. Is it fine now?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, fine. So any queries till now? I mean, those who have tried, or like yesterday also we attempted certain things. Any questions, any concerns?
Prashant, can you run --r to check the kernel version of your VMware?
Come again?
Can you check the kernel version of your Ubuntu in your session?
Yeah, the kernel version.
Yes, just I want to check.
Actually, I am not aware of the command, so let me just check out
uname-r. Can you?
Uname-r. Okay.
Yes, uname-r. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
What happened? I mean, you also said this is the one, right?
No, you told me that 12 point some LT server name Ubuntu version. So I'm just checking the kernel version.
12.04.
Yes, I'm checking the kernel version 3.8.0. Okay. I'm just verifying whether it's the same or not. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, fine then. So any concerns, any questions, please let me know before I start today's session. Because it is essential that you must have a good knowledge of pseudo distributed, then only it will be, this lecture will be a bit effective. Okay. So fine, in today's session, we are going to create a fully distributed setup. Okay. So, see, I'll be listing certain lab steps here. See, the lab which we made right now. Okay. I'll be listing the steps for the lab. Later, I'll be discussing how things happen in production. Okay. Today, my motto is to create this kind of setup. The one which you are seeing in this diagram. Okay, not this one, of course. This is some other thing. Only the one which I have highlighted here. Okay. So there will be total 5 nodes, in which one node will act as name node server, or you can say the master server. One node will act as checkpoint server, or you can say secondary name node server, and the remaining 3 nodes act as worker nodes. Okay, each node containing data node and task tracker. This kind of setup is called fully distributed setup, where the master service reside on one system, checkpoint service reside on another system, and the worker nodes resides on individual systems. So the thing is, see, this one, data node and task tracker, this is something which cannot be separated, because if you remember my yesterday's lecture, I told you that these are set using slaves file. And through slaves file, we cannot consolidate where to maintain data node and where to maintain the task tracker. But on the other hand, there are certain productions where I worked where this name node and job tracker were residing on different systems. It is possible to separate name node and job tracker. Suppose if you're sure that your cluster will be always busy for processing the data, like we have, in traffic control and all, basically 24/7, 365, the CCTVs are running and they need a mechanism for batch processing. So in that case, people use Hadoop. Especially I have a project in Nigeria where actually I implemented such thing. So the thing is, there, since it was a surveillance system, so 24/7, 365, they were processing the video footages. So in that case, maintaining name node and job tracker in a single Xeon server was a challenge there. So the thing is, we separated name node and we separated job tracker. Name node was in one physical system and the job tracker was in another physical system, so that, there would be separation of duties even with respect to the masters, so that they can get equal justice when it comes to resources. So ideally what I mean to say here is, if you wish, you can separate these two services, but you can never separate data node and task tracker services. But ideally, as per Apache documentation, it is never recommended to separate name node and job tracker. As per Apache documentation, it is never recommended to separate name node and job tracker. However, it's still our wish, and it doesn't affect anything with respect to performance or something if we separate the services. So today what we will be doing is, we will be creating a 5-node cluster. Now, since my system is holding up to 32 gigs of RAM, I have enough resources. But if in your case, if you're working on a 4 GB RAM system, don't do this practical. Instead, I will give you a question that you can perform based on what I do in today's lecture. Just try to perform that question and you will be able to get a fully distributed cluster experience. So everybody got the use case, what we are going to do today? Just hit a quick yes. So finally, we are going to create a 5-node cluster. We are going to create a 5-node cluster where node represents machines. So see, I will be doing some shortcuts today. Okay, I'll be doing some shortcuts today. So I'll do one thing. First, I will do some production steps. I will list some production steps. Once I list the production steps, then I will list you the lab steps. So if suppose I was in production, what could I have been done? So since there are 5 nodes, each node must be installed with your favorite Linux OS, which is of course supportable. Once you install Linux in 5 nodes, you will update the Linux OS in 5 nodes, and this should be done individually. Then install Java in 5 nodes, preferably Java 7, and then of course when you install Linux OS, please take care that you install SSH also by default. And once you install Java, then I say install Hadoop in standalone mode in 5 nodes. So in all 5 nodes, you need to manually install Hadoop in 5 nodes. Once you install Hadoop in standalone mode in 5 nodes, then in the name node server, setup core-site.xml and maplet-site.xml. Now, can anybody tell me what is the significance of core-site XML and maplet-site XML? Can you please answer via the chat box? What is the significance of core-site.xml and maplet-site.xml? Okay, Uday, Swapna, you are correct till now. What about maplet? What about maplet site? Okay, perfect. What about others? Please participate in the question answers. It really helps. No, Rajendra. It will be, I mean, you will need to attend yesterday's lecture because we have covered a lot yesterday regarding Hadoop lab. So, core-site XML is to configure the name node service, whereas maplet-site XML is to configure the job tracker service. Technically, in this step, I am configuring my master server. In this step, I am configuring my name node server. So once I configure the name node server, the next step is sync the core-site.xml and maplet-site.xml to the remaining system, to the remaining 4 nodes. Can anybody tell me, I mean those who are especially Linux experts, can you tell me how we can sync a file from one system to another with respect to contents? With respect to the contents that is written in the file. Very good, Tejaswini. Using rsync. You can go for 2 things. Either you can go for rsync or you can go for FTP also, depending upon your choice. Okay. So now, what happens is whatever settings you did in core-site and maplet, the same settings will be reflected to the remaining 4 nodes via the network medium. This is the use of rsync, or you can use FTP. So once you sync the core-site, the files and the settings which I done in core-site and maplet Swapna. If you remember my yesterday's lecture, I set fs.default.name, hadoop.emp.dir, and maplet.job.tracker. So all those settings which I do in the name node server, I can sync those files with the remaining 4 nodes, so that the remaining 4 nodes will also have the same setting that I did in name node server. Is it clear, Swapna? Okay. So once this syncing is done, then what I do is in the name node server. Now, when I say name node server, I hope you all understand. I am referring to this system. Okay. I am referring to this system when I say name node server. So in the name node server, set up masters file. So for the 4 nodes, we are doing Hadoop installation. So we are not doing core-site and maplet setup. Is it correct? Which is achieved through a sync process. Okay. So let me give you a clear idea here. See, what we did is, here in this system, I have manually typed the settings that is required in CoSec and MapRed, okay, for configuring name node and job tracker service. Once I configure this server, then whatever file, that is CoSec and MapRed, whatever I configured, the same will be duplicated in the remaining systems. The same will be duplicated in the remaining systems. The benefit of this duplication is your systems will be aware who is the master. When I say master means who is the master system. Okay, Rajendra? Fine. Okay. So see, once we sync the CoSec and MapRed, the next step is you need to set up the masters file. Can anybody tell me what is the significance of masters file? Quickly answer in the chat box, please. Okay, Uday has a question. Do we need to configure the 5 nodes, 5 services on all host? Not exactly, Uday. I'll explain you how to configure that. Okay, I'll be telling you step by step. Once I finally complete this, you will be seeing it. So masters file is used for setting up secondary name node. Masters file is used to set up secondary name node. Okay. So set up masters file by specifying the IP address of S&M server. So technically, on the masters file, you set up the IP address of this system. Okay. Now this setting should be done only in the master. The next step is in the name node server. Once again on the master, set up slaves file. Okay. Please tell me what is the significance of slaves file. Your correlation is correct, Rajendra. It's similar. Your correlation is correct. Worker nodes. When I refer to the nodes, I am referring to these 3 nodes. Technically, there are 3 IP addresses that will be present one after the another in the slaves file. So once this setting is done, now the next step is in the name node server, create the HDFS folder in /usr/local/Hadoop. I hope you all remember the significance of HDFS folder, where the HDFS folder will logically act as the drive, So once we create the HDFS folder, the next step is sync the HDFS folder with the remaining 4 nodes, which can be achieved using rsync or SCP. So once this folder is in sync to all the systems present in the cluster, the next step is to create a passwordless setup. In name node server and pass the keys to the remaining 4 nodes. If you all remember, yesterday I told you about passwordless setup. So can you all tell me which are the services Which are the services which requires authentication? See, whichever questions I ask, you can refer to your last notepads. Okay, it's an open book test. I am not expecting you all to learn it in just certain hours. Please refer the notepad and answer my question. Which are the services that require authentication? Which are the services that require authentication? SSH is used to create a passwordless setup, but which are the services that require authentication? Swapna, you got the correct answer. Very good participation. It's name node, job tracker, and data node. Ram, even your answer is correct. Except secondly name node and task tracker. Fine. Okay. Name node, job tracker, and data node. Copy paste it. Yes, I can understand. I can see that TR capital. That was a typo error yesterday I did. No problem. The only point is that, see, you should be able to get the answers. Okay. I am not expecting like primary children just, cramming the sessions and all. Finally, by the end of the day, by referring to my notepads, you should be able to set up a cluster in the production. That's my ultimate motto. Okay, nobody in company will tell you don't see the books and finally, if you have these steps with you, you can excel yourself in your career. That's what my point is. Okay, fine. So, once we create the passwordless setup, when I say passwordless setup, you need to do SSH keygen and cat command so that the key will be authorized for name node server itself. Once that step is done, you need to pass the keys to the 4 nodes using the command ssh-copy-id. So I will be exploring these commands. Don't worry, I'm just keeping an idea here. I'm just specifying the production steps here. Okay. So once we create the passwordless setup and pass the keys to the remaining 4 nodes, the next step that you need to perform is you need to format the name node. And this formatting is to be done only on name node server. The formatting which you do in the name node server will be reflected